Hey, welcome back. Today we are going to be covering offsets. This is going to continue in our pipe bending series. So in this video I'm going to show you how to calculate measurements for an offset and then also how to actually bend one. So like I said before, an offset helps you get around or over an obstruction. In our scenario today, we're going to be trying to get over this disconnect in the field. It could be a plumber's pipe, it could be a HVAC pipe, it could be anything. So before you bend your offset, there are three key measurements you got to take, okay? The first measurement is going to be the distance between your pipe and whatever you're trying to go over or around. So in our scenario, we're going over a disconnect. I'll measure from the center of the coupling to the edge of the disconnect. We got 30 inches, okay? The next two measurements are important to calculate your offset depth. So the first one, you'll measure from the ground to the bottom of your pipe. Or if you're working on a lift, you can measure from the roof or something. But something that is flat, level, you can measure off of. So I measure from the ground because we're on the ground. 48.25 from the ground to the bottom of the pipe. I'll measure from the ground up. 53.75 is my measurement. So what I want to do with those two measurements is I take my 53.75 and I subtract it from my 48.25, so that gave us 5.5. Okay, I like to add about a ½ inch just to give some clearance. Sometimes you got to do them perfectly, but I'm gonna give myself a ½ inch clearance over this disconnect since my pipes in the disconnect are coming from the ground and I can go over. So I'm gonna do a 6-inch offset. So when you're bending an offset, the first thing you're going to need to look at is your tables. Okay, so they have your measurement tables on the bender. I got them right up here so you can see them a little bit bigger. They're pretty simple. Just know if you're doing two 10-degree bends, then your multiplier is 6 and your shrinkage is 1/16 per inch. Okay, and then you can just follow down the table depending on what your degree of bends is, and you can go off that measurement for your multiplier. Alright, so here is our offset measurement calculations. Now, depending on how much space you have between your pipe and whatever you need to offset over will justify what bend you make. So in our scenario, we got 30 inches from the end of our pipe to our disconnect. So this, I got a few examples here of a 10, a 22, a 30, and a 45 of just how the bends will land on a 6-inch offset. Okay, another thing you need to calculate is degree of bend. So you can only have 360 degrees in a bend. On a full run of pipe. So if you already have a couple 90s in here, then you might have to do a 22.5 or a 30-degree bend because a 45 will get you over that 360 degrees. This is an example of where the bends will fall at different degrees. So our first one is a 10-degree offset. Okay, our multiplier for 10 degrees is 6, and our shrinkage is at 1/16. So our offset is going to be 6 inches. Okay, so we'll do our multiplier 6. We'll multiply it by our offset depth, which is 6, gives us 36 inches between the two bends. Then we have to calculate for our shrinkage. A 1/16 of an inch times our offset depth, which is 6, gives us 3/8. So our first mark, we don't want to come too close to the end of the pipe because you won't be able to make that bend. So our first mark is at 12. So I add my shrinkage to that first mark, so it'll be 12 3/8. And then I add my distance between the bends, which is 36. So 12 3/8 plus 36 is 48 3/8. Okay. Now, as you can see, I only have 30 inches between my disconnect and my pipe, so a 10-degree is definitely not going to work. Okay, and then I got all these kind of labeled out where they'd be. For 22.5, our multiplier is 2.6, so we would need 2.6 times 6 is 15.6 or 15 5/8. So I would need 15 5/8 in between these two bends. Okay, we had to add for our shrinkage, which is 1 1/8. So 12 plus 1 1/8 gives us 13 1/8. Then we add that 15 5/8. 15 5/8 plus 13 1/8 is 28 3/4. That's still not going to work because that second bend is just too close to that disconnect, and it's probably going to hit the bend is going to be in the disconnect. Our last two options is a 30 and a 45. I did the same math over here, multiplier 2 times 6 is 12, and I added our shrinkage, so 12 plus 1.5 inches for our shrinkage is 13.5, and then I add that 12 inch between our bends, 13.5 plus 12 is 25.5. So as you can see, that bend right there would work perfectly. I usually use 30s when I bend offsets, but you know, you could use a 45 also. Like I said, it just depends how much bend you already have in that run of pipe. So I got my measurements laid out. I'm at 13.5 and then 25.5. Okay, so how I do it is I start with my first measurement, which is 13.5. Okay, and I bend them on the notch because that is you know, like the center of the bend. So I found that to be the best for my method. I line up my 13.5 on the notch, and then I'm gonna bend it down to where the bottom of the pipe's even with 30 degrees, so it'll look just like that right there. Okay, then I'm gonna take my pipe, I'm gonna slide it down, I'm gonna stick my next mark on that notch right there. I'm gonna rotate it around here. Okay, and you want that pipe straight. Okay, so the pipe should be straight with the bender, just so you can see it from your view. I can't tell if that's quite straight or not because I'm looking backwards at it, but you want to get that pipe straight, and you don't want it dog-leg. You don't want it like that, you know, because your offset will not be straight. So you want your mark on the notch, get it straight. Okay, when you make this second bend, make sure that you do not take bend out of the first bend. It's hard to do if the bends are close together, but just make sure that you do not do that, and then just bend it down to your 30 right there. So that's what you should get. Now you can see it looks like I got a little more bend in one or the other. So what you can do is stick the pipe on the ground, okay, and you can check your measurement. Okay, I should have 6 inches to the bottom of that pipe, which I do. Now you can check your measurement at the end, and look, I got 6.5. So what that means is I need a little bit more bend in this bend right here. So I'll stick it back in the bender, and I mean, I'm talking probably, you know, 2 to 3 degrees of more bend. Okay, so it's not like we're putting a whole lot of bend in here. We're just adding that extra little bit here. Okay, so stick that pipe back in that bender, and you're gonna add, like I said, 2 to 3 degrees, not much, and you're just getting that pipe where it's running level with the ground here. And now let's check it, and as you can see, oh yeah, 6 inches at the end, and then 6 inches on the front side. So here's the completed offset. As I mentioned before, our original offset, we had 5.5 inches from the bottom of the pipe to the top of the disconnect, so we did a 6 inch offset, which gave us that about 1/2 inch clearance right here. Okay, before you strap it up, make sure you put a level on both ends, and that way it is running level